My friends, what happens when you take your last breath? Where do you go? What do you see? Many people have theories, but I'm not here to share theories. I'm here to share an encounter that will shake your very soul. The afterlife is not a myth, a dream, or a distant philosophy. It is the most certain reality awaiting every person. The moment we take our last breath on this earth, we do not cease to exist. We step into a realm more real than anything we have ever known. In an instant, the limits of time, space, and earthly understanding fall away, and we are face to face with eternity. Many people wonder, what happens after we die? Some say it's the end, that consciousness fades into nothingness. Others believe in reincarnation or some form of energy transfer. But the truth is already revealed. In the Bible, we are said that man is destined to die once, and after that, face judgment. There is no cycle of returning, no second chances to rewrite our story. In the blink of an eye, we step beyond the veil, and what we encounter in that moment depends entirely on the choices we made in this life. The reality of the afterlife is something that few are prepared for. Some expect a vague, shadowy existence, but those who have glimpsed it will tell you it is not mist or illusion. It is a world more vibrant, more intense, more overwhelming than anything here. Every sense is heightened. Every moment is weighty with eternal significance. In the Bible, we are said that what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. This life, no matter how long it seems, is like a vapor. It is passing away, but the realm that lies beyond is unshakable, unchanging, everlasting. There are only two destinations, no middle ground, no wandering spirits caught between realms, no neutral. The afterlife is not determined by good deeds outweighing bad or by religious affiliation alone. It is decided by one thing, our relationship with Jesus. When the body fails, when the heart stops, when the breath leaves, nothing from this world can follow. Not our wealth, not our status, not our achievements. Only one thing matters in that moment. Do we belong to Him? Some will step into eternity and immediately be wrapped in light, peace, and joy beyond measure. They will hear the voice of the one they served, calling them home, welcoming them into the place He prepared before the foundations of the world. In the Bible, we are said that to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. For those who have placed their trust in Jesus, death is not an end. It is the doorway to everything they were created for. But others will step into eternity and realize too late that they have been deceived. The distractions of this world, the rejection of truth, the refusal to surrender, it all comes rushing back in a moment of unbearable clarity. They will cry out, but the choice has already been made. In the Bible, we are said that there is a way that seems right to man, but in the end, it leads to death. Many walk through life believing they have time, that they will consider eternity later. But later is never promised. The afterlife is real, and the moment we enter it, there is no turning back. There comes a moment in every life when time stops and eternity begins. No one knows the exact hour, the exact breath, or the exact second when they will step beyond the veil, but the appointment is set. It cannot be rescheduled, delayed, or ignored. In the Bible, we are said that our days are numbered, and not one of them is hidden from God. Every moment we live is a step closer to the one that will change everything, the moment we leave this world behind and step into the fullness of the next. For some, this transition comes as a whisper, a gentle release from the weight of this world. For others, it arrives like a sudden storm, without warning, without preparation. But no matter how it happens, one truth remains. The spirit does not die. The body may fail, but the soul remains fully conscious, fully aware, fully alive. The instant the earthly realm fades, another reality unfolds before our eyes. It is at that moment that all illusions are shattered. Everything we clung to in this life, our fears, our doubts, our ambitions, falls away. We realize how fleeting it all was, how the things we once thought mattered so much were nothing more than dust in the wind. In the Bible, we are said that, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? That is the question that rings louder than ever when the door to eternity swings open. The transition from life to eternity is not a drifting into emptiness, but a divine appointment, one in which every person will come face to face with the truth. And that truth is not a philosophy, not a religion, not an idea. It is a person. The moment the veil is lifted, all arguments cease. Every false belief, every rejection of truth, every deception is exposed in the light of his presence. There is no longer any debate about whether God exists, whether Jesus is real, whether heaven and hell are true. In the Bible, we are said that every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus is Lord. The question is not if we will acknowledge him, the question is when. Some will see him and be filled with unspeakable joy. They will hear his voice, calling them by name, welcoming them home. The love that sustained them in this life will now surround them completely. But others will see him and realize too late that they have rejected the only one who could save them. The weight of that moment is beyond words. The Bible tells us of those who will cry out, begging for another chance, pleading for more time. But time as they knew it will be gone. The appointment has been met. The decision has been sealed. The reality of eternity is no longer a distant thought. It has become their new existence, and it will never end. The moment of standing before Jesus is unlike anything that can be described in earthly terms. Everything that was once hidden is suddenly exposed in the full light of his presence. The overwhelming realization washes over the soul. This is the King of Kings, the one who holds all things together, the one through whom all creation was made. His presence is not just light, it is truth itself, and nothing can remain concealed. In the Bible, we are said that all things are laid bare before him, and no thought, no action, no secret is hidden from his sight. His eyes are unlike any eyes ever seen before. They burn with fire, yet radiate love. They pierce through the soul, seeing not just actions, but motives, not just words, but the deepest intentions of the heart. There is no room for pretense, no place to hide behind excuses or justifications. The presence of Jesus is the purest reality, and at that moment, the soul knows it is either fully his or it is not. The sound of his voice carries the weight of eternity. It is not like the voices of men, not like the shifting tones of this world. When he speaks, his words are alive, filled with power that shakes the very essence of existence. In the Bible, we are said that his voice is like the sound of many waters, like the thunder that rolls through the heavens. To those who belong to him, it is the most beautiful sound they have ever heard, the voice they have longed for, the voice that called them before they even knew him. But to those who rejected him, it is a voice that shakes them to their core, for they now understand that the one they ignored, the one they dismissed, is the Lord of all. There is no comparison to the glory of his presence. No earthly king, no ruler, no mighty leader has ever carried such majesty. The atmosphere around him is filled with holiness, a radiance that causes even the most powerful beings to fall on their faces in worship. In the Bible, we are said that even the seraphim, the mighty angels of heaven, cover their faces before him, crying out, "Holy, holy, holy." If the greatest of heaven's hosts cannot stand in his presence without trembling, what hope does sinful man have apart from his mercy? To those who have trusted him, this moment is the fulfillment of everything they have lived for. The one they worshiped in faith now stands before them in full reality. But to those who rejected him, this moment is the deepest regret they have ever known. The weight of lost opportunity, the realization of every ignored call, every dismissed truth, it crashes upon them with unbearable force. In the Bible, we are said that many will say, Lord, Lord, but he will declare, I never knew you. The words spoken in this moment will determine eternity, and there is no changing the outcome once they are heard. The moment eternity opens, the veil is lifted, and what was once unseen becomes undeniable. Heaven and hell are not distant concepts or abstract ideas. They are living realities, more real than anything on earth. When the soul departs from the body, it is immediately aware of where it is going. There is no delay, no uncertainty, no wandering in an unknown realm. In the Bible, we are said that the soul of man returns to God, who determines its eternal dwelling. The glory of heaven is beyond human understanding. It is not just a place of peace, but a realm where the very atmosphere is life itself. Every step taken is in the presence of God, where love, joy, and holiness fill every breath. There is no pain, no sorrow, no regret. The light that fills this place does not come from the sun or the stars, but from the very presence of Jesus, shining brighter than anything imagined. In the Bible, we are said that there is no need for the sun or moon, for the Lamb is its light. The streets, pure as gold, reflect his glory, and the sound of worship never ceases. For those who are there cannot help but fall before him in awe. There is no sickness, no aging, no death. The struggles of earth are forgotten in an instant, replaced by a joy that cannot be contained. Every tear is wiped away, every broken heart is made whole, every longing is fulfilled in the presence of the one who created all things. The redeemed stand clothed in white, not by their own righteousness, but by the sacrifice of Jesus. In the Bible, we are said that they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. They have entered into the place prepared for them before the foundation of the world, the home they were always meant for. But not all enter into this place of life. Just as real as heaven is, so is the place of eternal separation. Many believe that hell is a place of temporary suffering, a state of mind, or a punishment that eventually ends. But the truth is far more terrifying. Hell is not a place where souls vanish or cease to exist. It is a place where the full weight of being separated from God is felt for eternity. In the Bible, we are said that it is a place of weeping and gnashing of teeth, where the fire is never quenched, where the darkness is thick and suffocating. Those who arrive there do not question why they are there. They know. Every rejected opportunity, every time they pushed God away, every moment they lived for themselves instead of surrendering to Him, it all becomes clear. The weight of regret is heavier than the suffering itself. The knowledge that they will never leave, never escape, never again feel the touch of God's presence is the greatest torment of all. There is no second chance. The choice made in life is the choice that lasts forever. The love of Jesus is unlike anything known in this world. It is not the love that shifts with emotions or fades with time. It is not based on what a person has done or failed to do. It is a love so powerful, so consuming, that it changes everything it touches. When the soul stands before Him, there is an overwhelming realization that this love has been pursuing them since the moment they took their first breath. Every heartbeat, every moment of life, every whisper of hope was His love calling out, waiting to be received. In the Bible, we are said that nothing can separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus. It is a love that has no limits, no conditions, no boundaries. His love is not passive. It is not distant or theoretical. It is alive, burning with intensity. reaching through the deepest darkness to rescue the lost. When he looks at a soul, it is not with condemnation, but with eyes filled with compassion. Even in the face of rebellion, even in the presence of sin, his love does not waver. In the Bible, we are said that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. This is the love that bore the weight of suffering, the love that was nailed to a cross, the love that chose death so that others might have life. There is no shame too great, no past too broken, no mistake too deep, that his love cannot redeem. The presence of Jesus does not expose sin to bring humiliation, but to bring healing. He does not reveal failures to bring judgment, but to bring freedom. In the Bible, we are said that if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. This is the love that calls out, even to the one who has rejected him 1,000 times, still longing, still waiting, still offering mercy. When a person stands before him, the depth of this love becomes undeniable. There is nothing to prove, nothing to earn, nothing to achieve. His love has already paid the price. There is a moment when all of life's striving falls away and the soul realizes that it was always about this encounter, this relationship, this unshakable, everlasting love. In the Bible, we are said that greater love has no one than this, that a man would lay down his life for his friend. This love does not demand perfection. It simply asks for surrender. Yet love does not force itself upon anyone. It is given freely, but it must be received. Many will stand before him and see the love they rejected, the love they ignored, the love they thought they did not need. And in that moment, they will know that they were never unloved, never unseen, never abandoned. Every moment of their life was an opportunity to embrace that love, to step into the fullness of what he had prepared. The love of Jesus is the greatest reality in all eternity. And to accept it is to step into life itself. There is a moment when every soul will understand the weight of their choices. Nothing will be hidden, nothing will be overlooked, and every decision will be brought into the light. The way a person lived, the way they responded to truth, the way they handled the gift of life, everything will stand before them with absolute clarity. The things that once seemed small will be revealed as significant, and the moments that were ignored will be seen for what they truly were. In the Bible, we are said that every idle word spoken will be accounted for, and every deed will be tested by fire. Many live their lives as if time is limitless, as if the consequences of their actions will never catch up to them. They believe there will always be another day to change, another opportunity to turn things around. But the moment eternity opens, that illusion is shattered. There is no more time to rewrite the story, no more chances to undo what has been done. In the Bible, we are said that it is appointed for man to die once, and after that comes judgment. The weight of this truth is inescapable, and when the soul stands in his presence, there is no argument, no justification, no deception that can stand against the truth. For those who lived in surrender to Jesus, this moment is not one of fear, but of fulfillment. The struggles they endured, the sacrifices they made, the faith they held on to even in the darkest times, it will all be rewarded. Nothing was in vain, nothing was forgotten. In the Bible, we are said that those who are faithful with little will be entrusted with much, and those who endured will receive the crown of life. Every tear shed in faith, every act of obedience, every unseen moment of devotion will be revealed as treasure stored up in eternity. But for those who rejected the truth, this moment is the realization of a terrible mistake. They will see with perfect clarity the times they ignored his voice, the moments they turned away, the opportunities they wasted. The distractions of life, the pursuit of temporary pleasures, the excuses they made, all of it will be meaningless now. In the Bible, we are said that many will say, "Lord, Lord," but he will reply, "I never knew you." The regret in that moment is greater than any pain that was ever felt on earth. The knowledge that they had every chance, that they were given the invitation, that they heard the call, but chose to turn away, this will weigh upon them heavier than anything else. There is no deception in eternity, no more self-justification, no more denial. The reality of every choice made in life will be laid bare. The moment to decide was always in this life, not in the next. Every moment spent ignoring the truth will be remembered, and every person will know with absolute certainty that their eternity was shaped by the choices they made when they still had time. Eternity is not a distant idea, not a vague concept to be considered later. It is the ultimate reality, the destination toward which every person is moving. Whether acknowledged or ignored, whether prepared for or not, it is approaching with certainty. In the Bible, we are said that life is like a vapor, here for a moment and then gone. The years spent on earth, no matter how long they seem, are nothing compared to what comes after. Every breath taken is one step closer to the moment when time will be no more, and the soul will enter into its final dwelling place. The choices made in this life echo forever. The decision to accept or reject Jesus is not just a religious preference, not just a philosophical stance. It is the defining choice of eternity. Many believe they have time, that they will surrender later, that they will turn to God when it is more convenient. But no one is promised another day, another hour, another chance. In the Bible, we are said that today is the day of salvation. The urgency is real because once eternity begins, there is no reversing the outcome. For those who belong to Him, eternity is not something to fear, but something to anticipate with joy. The pain of this world, the struggles of this life, the burdens that weighed so heavily, all of it will be left behind in a moment. There will be no more sorrow, no more suffering, no more death. In the presence of Jesus, there is fullness of joy, peace beyond understanding, and love that never fades. In the Bible, we are said that He will wipe away every tear and make all things new. Every promise will be fulfilled, every longing will be satisfied, and the soul will finally be home. But for those who reject Him, eternity is a weight heavier than can be imagined. The door that was once open will be shut. The invitation that was extended will no longer be available. There will be no more chances, no more pleading, no more turning back. The reality of separation from God will become an unending existence, a darkness that cannot be escaped. In the Bible, we are said that those who refuse the truth will be cast into outer darkness, where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. It is not because God desires this for anyone. He has done everything to make a way of escape. But love does not force itself upon those who refuse it, and the choice given in life is honored in eternity. Every person will stand before Him. Every soul will step into eternity. The only question that remains is what that eternity will be. The choice has always been before each person. The invitation has always been extended. In the Bible, we are said that God sets before us life and death, blessing and curse, and urges us to choose life. The time to decide is not after death. It is now, while the breath of life is still in the body, while the door of grace is still open, while the voice of Jesus is still calling. My friends, there's someone watching right now, someone who has been broken, betrayed, left behind. You trusted Him, you believed in Him, and now you're left wondering, why did this happen? But I hear the Lord saying, what was meant for evil, I will turn for your good. Pain is never wasted. When a man hurts you, when betrayal knocks the breath out of you, when rejection feels like a storm you can't escape, know this: God is still in control. The enemy wants you to believe that this pain is your end. But what if it's actually your beginning? What if What was meant to break you is the very thing that will position you for greater. In the Bible, we are said that all things work together for the good of those who love him. Not some things, not just the easy things, all things. That means even this heartbreak, even this disappointment, even this unexpected wound. It's all working for something greater. When Joseph was thrown into a pit by his own brothers, it wasn't the end of his story. When he was lied about, falsely accused, and thrown into prison, it wasn't the end of his story. Every painful moment was a setup for something greater. And when the time was right, he was lifted up into a position of power that he never could have reached without the very trials he had suffered. Right now, you may feel like you're in the pit. You may feel like you've been cast aside, forgotten, or betrayed. But God sees you, and he is not finished with you yet. In Bible, we are said that though you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames may rise around you. The enemy may be whispering that you won't survive this. But heaven has already declared, this will not destroy you. There is something powerful that happens when you shift your perspective. Instead of seeing pain as punishment, start seeing it as preparation. Instead of seeing rejection as loss, start seeing it as a door closing so a better one can open. What was meant to harm you is actually making you stronger. The enemy wanted to use this moment to weaken you, but in reality, it is refining you, purifying you, and drawing you closer to the presence of God like never before. And here's what truly confounds the enemy. When, in the middle of your pain, you still praise. When, in the middle of your tears, you still trust. When, instead of giving up, you rise up. That's when breakthrough comes. That's when heaven moves on your behalf. Look at Job. Everything was taken from him, his family, his wealth, his health. And yet, in the middle of his suffering, he remained faithful. The enemy thought he would break, but instead, he was blessed with double for everything he had lost. That is the power of endurance. That is the power of standing firm, even when everything in you wants to fall. This pain is not your ending. It is a setup for something greater. What you are walking through right now is not the final chapter of your story. Heaven is about to turn the page, and when it does, you will see that what was meant for evil, God has turned for good. The natural response to being hurt is to strike back. When someone wounds you, the flesh cries out for justice, for retribution, for a response that makes them feel the same pain they inflicted on you. But the Spirit calls for something different. The greatest way to confuse the enemy, whether it be a person who has hurt you or the forces working behind them, is to do what they never expect. Instead of reacting with anger, respond with forgiveness. Instead of holding on to bitterness, release it. Instead of letting pain turn into resentment, allow it to be transformed into power. In Bible, we are said to bless those who curse us and pray for those who mistreat us. This is not a suggestion, it is a strategy. When you choose to forgive, when you choose to let go instead of holding on, you remove the enemy's ability to control you. As long as you harbor anger, the enemy still has a grip on your heart. But the moment you release it, you take back your power. This is why forgiveness is not weakness, it is warfare. Look at Jesus. He was betrayed, rejected, and mocked by the very people he came to save. He had every reason to be bitter, every right to call down judgment, but instead, he did the unexpected. As he hung on the cross, suffering at the hands of those who despised him, he prayed for them. He asked the Father to forgive them. That kind of love, that kind of grace shakes the very foundations of darkness. The enemy cannot comprehend it. The world teaches that forgiveness means excusing what someone has done. But that is not what God calls us to do. Forgiveness does not mean allowing someone to continue hurting you. It does not mean staying in toxic situations. It does not mean pretending the pain didn't happen. It means releasing the weight of it so that it does not consume you. It means choosing to rise above the offense instead of being chained to it. Joseph was sold into slavery by his own brothers. Years later, when he had the power to punish them, he did the unexpected. He forgave. He understood that what they had meant for harm, God had turned for good. His forgiveness didn't justify their actions, but it freed him from the burden of revenge. And because of his obedience, he walked in a level of blessing and authority he never could have imagined. The enemy expects you to be bitter. He expects you to stay wounded, to live in anger, to let your pain define you. But when you do the opposite, when you forgive, when you walk in peace, when you choose love instead of hate, you disarm him completely. You confuse the one who tried to break you. You rise above the attack and you step into the supernatural power of God that turns pain into purpose, betrayal into breakthrough, and rejection into restoration. When a person hurts you, it is easy to believe that they are the real enemy. The pain they caused, the betrayal they committed, the words they spoke, they all feel personal. But there is a deeper reality at play. The battle is not against flesh and blood. The attack you are experiencing is not just about the person who hurt you. It is about a greater spiritual battle that the enemy is waging against your life. When you understand this, everything changes. In Bible, we are said that the enemy comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. He is after your peace, your joy, your destiny. And one of the ways he tries to do this is through people. He uses offense to plant seeds of bitterness. He uses betrayal to push you into isolation. He uses rejection to make you doubt your worth. But when you recognize that the person who hurt you is not the true enemy, you stop fighting in the natural and start waging war in the spirit. Jesus understood this better than anyone. When he was arrested, beaten, and nailed to a cross, he knew that the people carrying out those actions were not the real enemy. He even said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." He saw beyond their actions and recognized that a greater battle was at play. And because he did not fight in the flesh, he won in the spirit. David faced this same truth when Saul sought to destroy him. Saul was jealous, enraged, and determined to kill him, but David refused to strike back. Even when given the opportunity to take Saul's life, he chose to let God fight the battle for him. He knew that his fight was not against a man, but against the forces influencing him. And because David chose to fight spiritually instead of reacting emotionally, God elevated him in due time. The enemy wants you distracted. He wants you so focused on the person who hurt you that you do not see the bigger picture. He wants you to retaliate, to hold on to bitterness, to stay in a place of woundedness. But when you shift your perspective, when you refuse to engage in battles that are beneath your spiritual calling, you step into a place of divine victory. In Bible, we are said to put on the full armor of God so that we can stand against the schemes of the enemy. This means that your weapons are not words spoken in anger. Your defense is not revenge. Your strength does not come from proving a point. Your power comes from prayer. It comes from standing firm in faith. It comes from worshiping in the middle of the storm. The enemy does not know what to do with someone who refuses to fight in the flesh, but instead fights in the spirit. That is when strongholds break. That is when peace is restored. That is when the attacks of the enemy lose their power. Silence is powerful. When someone wounds you, betrays you, or speaks against you, the natural response is to defend yourself. The flesh wants to argue, to prove a point, to make sure everyone knows the truth. But there is a greater power in restraint. When you refuse to engage in unnecessary battles, when you choose peace over retaliation, you take control away from the enemy. The enemy expects you to react emotionally, but when you remain silent and let God fight for you, you confuse the one who tried to break you. In the Bible, we are said to be still and know that He is God. This means that not every battle requires your response. Not every accusation needs a defense. Not every betrayal demands revenge. There is divine authority in silence. Jesus Himself demonstrated this when He stood before His accuser. They hurled false charges against Him, mocked Him, and tried to provoke a reaction. Yet He remained silent. He did not argue. He did not fight to prove His innocence. He understood that His silence was not weakness, it was strength. His confidence was in the Father, not in the need to convince men. Joseph understood this as well. After years of betrayal, false accusations, and imprisonment, he did not waste his energy trying to prove himself to those who had wronged him. When the time was right, God elevated him to a position of authority that no man could take away. His silence was not defeat, it was preparation for a greater victory. When you remain quiet in the face of adversity, you shift the battle from the natural to the supernatural. The enemy wants to pull you into a place of anger and frustration. He wants you to be consumed with the need to explain yourself, to defend your reputation, to fight back against those who have wronged you. But when you resist the urge to respond, you remove his ability to control your emotions. In the Bible, we are said that even a fool is considered wise when he holds his tongue. There is wisdom in knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Sometimes the greatest response is no response at all. David faced this when Saul pursued him. Though Saul sought to destroy him, David did not retaliate. He had opportunities to take matters into his own hands, but he chose to trust God's timing instead. He remained in peace, and in the end, God removed Saul without David having to lift a finger. That is what happens when you let God handle the situation instead of reacting in the flesh. The world sees silence as weakness, but in the kingdom of God, it is a weapon. It forces your enemies to battle themselves. It allows God to be your defender. It strips the enemy of his power because he cannot manipulate a heart that refuses to engage in his schemes. When you choose silence over retaliation, you operate from a place of victory instead of desperation. Rejection is painful. It shakes your confidence, makes you question your worth, and leaves you wondering why things happened the way they did. When someone you trusted turns their back on you, when a door you were counting on suddenly closes, when you find yourself cast aside, it can feel like everything is falling apart. But what if rejection is not a setback, but a setup? What if what feels like the end is actually God's way of leading you to something greater? In Bible, we are said that God knows the plans he has for us, plans to prosper us and not to harm us, plans to give us hope and a future. That means every rejection, every closed door, every painful goodbye is not an accident. It is divine redirection. What you lost was never meant to carry you into your next season. What walked away was not equipped to go where God is taking you. Sometimes rejection is not about what you did wrong, but about what God is protecting you from. Joseph was rejected by his own brothers. They stripped him of his coat, threw him into a pit, and sold him into slavery. To everyone watching, it looked like his life was over, but what they meant for evil, God was using to position him for something greater. If Joseph had never been rejected, he would have never ended up in Egypt. If he had never ended up in Egypt, he would have never been placed in the palace. What seemed like betrayal was actually the pathway to his destiny. The same happened with Jesus. He came to his own, and they rejected him. The very people he came to save turned against him. They mocked him, despised him, and cast him aside. But what looked like rejection was actually the fulfillment of a greater plan. His rejection led to the cross, and the cross led to victory. If he had been accepted, he would not have completed his mission. Sometimes the very thing you are crying over is the thing God is using to shift you into purpose. That relationship that ended, it was never meant to carry you where God is leading you. That opportunity that slipped away, it was not the best he had for you. That person who walked out of your life, their part in your story had already been completed. In Bible, we are said that when one door closes, another will open, and no man can shut what God has destined for you. The enemy wants you to believe that rejection is final, that when someone walks away, you have lost something valuable. But in reality, nothing that is truly meant for you can ever be taken from you. God is always working behind the scenes, orchestrating things for your good. What looks like an ending is actually a divine beginning. When people reject you, do not weep as if all is lost. Lift your head, because heaven is redirecting you to something greater. The enemy expects you to break under pressure. He expects you to drown in sorrow, to lose yourself in the weight of betrayal, to allow the pain of the past to dictate your future. But there is a way to confuse him, a way to disrupt every attack that was meant to destroy you. Instead of crying over what was lost, instead of letting rejection define you, rejoice. Instead of sinking into bitterness, rise up in joy. There is a supernatural power in joy that the enemy cannot comprehend, a power that shifts the atmosphere and turns pain into victory. In Bible, we are said that the joy of the Lord is our strength. That means joy is not just an emotion. It is a weapon. It is not based on circumstances, not dependent on who stays or who leaves, not controlled by what is happening around you. It comes from a place that cannot be shaken. It is why Paul and Silas, beaten and chained in a prison cell, could still sing praises in the middle of the night. The enemy expected them to be defeated, to be filled with fear, to question God. But instead, they lifted their voices in worship, and the prison doors swung open. Their joy in suffering confused the enemy and triggered a supernatural breakthrough. There is something about rejoicing in the midst of pain that frustrates the forces of darkness. The enemy wants you to be silent in your suffering. He wants you to dwell on your losses, to replay the betrayal, to sit in sorrow. But when you make the choice to rejoice, when you declare that God is still good even when things don't make sense, you dismantle every lie of the enemy. In the Bible, we are said to count it all joy when we face trials, because trials produce endurance, and endurance brings us into divine completeness. Joseph had every reason to be bitter. He was betrayed by his own brothers, falsely accused, and thrown into prison for a crime he did not commit. Yet he never allowed his situation to steal his joy. He remained faithful, and because of that, God elevated him. He went from the pit to the palace, not because his circumstances were perfect, but because his spirit remained steadfast. His ability to keep trusting, to keep believing, to keep moving forward in joy led him into the fulfillment of his destiny. David understood this power as well. Even when he was running for his life, even when he was hiding in caves, even when the promise over his life seemed impossible, he encouraged himself in the Lord. He knew that joy was not about what he felt in the moment, but about what he knew to be true. In Bible, we are said that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. No matter how deep the pain, no matter how heavy the burden, joy is coming. The enemy cannot stop it, and nothing can take away what God has prepared for those who stand firm in him. When a man hurts you, the enemy wants you to stay trapped in that pain. He wants you to relive the betrayal, to carry the weight of the wound, to allow bitterness to take root in your heart. But there is a way to rise above the attack, a way to confuse the very forces that tried to break you. Instead of dwelling on the past, walk in love. Instead of allowing pain to harden you, allow it to refine you. When you choose to love despite the hurt, when you extend grace even when it is undeserved, you step into a supernatural strength that the enemy cannot comprehend. In Bible, we are said to love our enemies and pray for those who persecute us. This is not an easy command. The flesh wants revenge, but the Spirit calls for something greater. Love is not just a feeling, it is a decision. It is the choice to rise above offense, to refuse to let darkness change who you are, to remain in the character of Christ no matter what comes against you. Jesus demonstrated this on the cross. He had been beaten, mocked, and betrayed. The very people he came to save had turned against him, yet his response was love. He did not curse them. He did not seek revenge. Instead, he asked the Father to forgive them. That kind of love is powerful. That kind of love breaks chains. That kind of love silences the enemy. Joseph had every right to hate his brothers. They sold him into slavery. They ripped him away from his home. They caused years of suffering in his life. But when the time came when he was in a position of power and they stood before him in need, he did not repay them with evil. He embraced them. He forgave them. He provided for them. What they had meant for harm, God had turned for good. And Joseph understood that holding onto anger would only hinder the blessing that was unfolding in his life. In Bible, we are said that love covers a multitude of sins. That means love has the power to heal what was broken, to restore what was stolen, to transform pain into purpose. The enemy wants to use the hurt to make you bitter, but God wants to use it to make you stronger. The world teaches that loving those who hurt you is foolish, but the kingdom of God operates differently. When you walk in love, you walk in victory. Love is what keeps your heart free, what keeps your spirit strong, what ensures that the pain of the past does not dictate your future. In Bible, we are said that perfect love casts out fear. Love disarms the enemy because he cannot operate where love abides. When you love, when you forgive, when you refuse to let the hurt define you, you step into the fullness of what God has for you, and no attack of the enemy can stop it.